Please step off. You've been told by a public official. Thank you. Sir. We're going to do committee. But you know what? I mean, right now, as you know, there's a moratorium on fracking as it is. And I talked to Commissioner Martens today, and he says, Mark, without the money or anything, or until we finish the SGIS report, high-volume hydraulic fracturing is not taking place.
That's good.
So,
do you think that's a reason not to ban it?
Well, but I don't represent Pennsylvania, do I, ma'am? I represent New York.
You do.
And I have 6 bills that actually, and you're wrong in your comments because I've held public hearings and I've done public hearings at Canandaigua and attended public hearings. So your comments.
It wasn't a public hearing. I'm the public and I didn't get to speak at the hearing.
At Canandaigua, there was hearings. You weren't there.
I was there.
I called your office to be invited,
they wouldn't let me. They said I wasn't invited.
No, you were invited. You just didn't put your name on the list.
I called your office.
I
called your office and you didn't
Public
respond
hearing
to
is
me.
generally where people come and they can sign up.
Right, but I wasn't having a public hearing in the sense of what everybody else was doing,
So
talking
it
about
wasn't a
everything.
public hearing.
No,
It wasn't a public hearing per se.
I was having a public hearing on the issues of the water and the flowback water and those particular issues. So rather than you standing behind me on those issues of public notification if it goes forward in the water, where I have the top environmental groups in this state backing me, you tend to go the other way. So you do what you want to do. I am not.
Do you know about this
I am not
coalition
promoting
urging
fracking.
you to support a ban on fracking? This coalition is built up of Citizen Action, Working Families Party, Food and Water Watch, Frack Action. Tons of grassroots groups are part of this coalition.
That's
They've
fine.
asked you to support the ban, not to support regulation.
That's fine. But I am not in a position to do a ban when the SGIS report is not completed
You're
yet.
in every position to co-sponsor
It
it
is
and move
not.
it up for a vote.
The report is not done yet from the DEC.
The whole point is that we need the legislation to pass before the report is done. Otherwise, the DEC will try to regulate this, and we don't want to regulate
That's not how I do things. I wait till you have all the scientific data, the report's finished, you see what's in the report.
May I ask
Okay.
you a
That's
question
why
about
we're
that
here
report,
today.
Senator?
We already know that it poisons our water. I mean, what else do we need to know?
May I ask the question?
Yeah.
Okay, my question is this. If seeing this supplemental generic environmental impact study with no human health impacts on it, if the DEC is going to basically make its evaluation on a document that has no human health impacts.
I talked to Commissioner Martens about that, and as far as the human health impact studies go, they are reviewing the health impact studies that are being done in other states and that have been done in other states. And
But don't we have responsibility to protect
Right.
our citizens here with our own research?
well, we do, but let me finish. But it's difficult to do a health impact study on a process that is not being done in New York State yet.
Well,
If it gets done at
So
all.
we have to wait for it to happen in New York State before we
No,
can
we don't. You know
adequately
what,
evaluate the situation.
You know what? You're one of these individuals that is like, what if this happens? What if this happens? That's not how things are done.
That's exactly
wait
what
for
you
reports
sound
and
like.
things
You
are done.
sound like one of those individuals that's...
Sir, I have a request. One request. Can you and your staffers and maybe some DEC guys and some ANCON people take a road trip down to Dimmock, Pennsylvania?
No, I'm not going to go to Dimmock, Pennsylvania. I'll tell you why. Because our regulations that are actually in the first supplemental SGIS report, not the second or the third part of it, the first one wouldn't even allow us to drill in Dimmock, Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania really does not, especially Dimmock, has no concern right now for me because we wouldn't even drill there with our regulations. I can't help that Pennsylvania jumped the gun and flooded the market and let incomparable people come in and do drilling and then leave.
Right, which is what
I can't.
prevent.
Right, but I can't help that they did that. And our regulations are so stringent. Even at these early stages, we wouldn't even drill in Dimmock. Is what I'm telling you. So there's no need to go
so
there.
If that's true, Senator, and what we're doing now is safe, how do you explain the fact that with even vertical fracking here in New York State, where like water problems in Collins have arisen through vertical fracking?
You know what? Vertical fracking's been going on longer than I've been born.
Yeah, but does that
It's
mean,
like
does
no,
that
but
mean
it
it's safe
has
in
been
every instance?
it has been going on longer than I've been born, and I don't have any studies in front of me that show vertical fracking causes any sort of pollution
Okay.
or causes any sort of disease to any individual.
So if that is the
That
case,
study.
okay, and you and I don't have a proper scientific study of that, but then there's anecdotal information where people's wells are being blown out and they're undrinkable when this is happening suddenly next to them. Why isn't there studies being done about that?
Not on the vertical fracking. And if you take a look
Well,
at the
maybe you should go talk to those people in
if you take a look at the SGIS regulations that are actually, somewhat what they're talking about in place, there are tests that would be done if this process went forward prior. Now in Pennsylvania, they never did any testing on any wells either prior, during, they did it afterwards. Okay? These are tests that would be done prior, during, and after a 5 to 6 day fracking of a wellhead, if that does take place in New York.
It's also too late. You understand that part?
Right. I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
Can I ask you about your legislation?
But at the time right now, there is no money in the budget. There is no money for the DEC. The DEC has been gutted. And when you talk to Commissioner Martens, he says, listen.
So do we think that going to the DEC to regulate things is going to be the solution if they're so underfunded?
They're saying this process is not. No, he said that the process will not go forward without proper regulation and without funding.
As part of the Environmental Conservation Committee in Albany, don't you think that it's your place to protect the environment rather than try and look for loopholes for business to
I'm not trying to look for loopholes for businesses. You know what? You always seem to be the one individual that tries to put words in my mouth, and I'm not going to let you do that.
Well, is it true that you are...
Listen, you don't need to raise your voice. I'm talking calm. What I said to you is that I am not making a final determination on high-volume hydrofracking until the final SGIS report is done. I have 6 bills now that I'm introducing in my committee.
Yeah.
Those 6 particular bills are targeting specific areas that are lacking in the SGIS report.
Don't you think it's your responsibility to protect our drinking water?
Are you going to let me finish?
Are you going to let me finish and answer the questions that we're asking you?
I am protecting your drinking water. I've done it with the water withdrawal bill. I've done it with other regulations that are on there. And until a final report is done from the DEC, then that's something we will talk about.
Senator, how do your bills protect against leaks, spills, accidents, illegal dumping? How does regulation protect against
if it goes forward, there's actually reporting requirements, not within 24 hours, within 2 hours.
Sure, so they're going to report themselves when they're being fined $25,000 a day that the problem persists.
No,
so the industry, you're relying on industry self-reporting.
There's tracking mechanisms that are in place.
Senator, there's going to be...
I've had an open door policy. I've had 4 to 6 meetings at least, not only with you, but with other groups. I have had you come to hearings. I have had you come to press conferences. I had you at the press conference, which you spoke at, and you spoke about mistruths at the press conference. And you know what? That's not a proper relationship to have, especially when you have top environmental groups in this area and across the state that back these 6 bills.
Who are being lobbied by huge dollar amounts.
They're not being lobbied by huge dollar amounts. And
Absolutely,
you know what? And if you take a look at what you guys try to put out there, any contribution, whether it's from I actually have gotten more money from environmental groups than I have from independent oil and gas companies. Thank you very much.
So what's stopping you? What's stopping you from moving forward with banning now?
That's not what democracy looks like.
But I'll be going to talk to you.
That's no argument.
Your kids will be drinking their water too.
Sure they will. I wanted to ask him what conditions he would actually...
Well, just because this is a busy road.
Oh, he's not. He's waiting for loopholes.
Yeah, I know. But
He wants to make it profitable.
I ask him under what conditions he would. Just so we can nail him down.
Is anybody else more